Hey friends, remember when I did my September reading wrap-up and I read a normal amount of books? Yeah, that was a short-lived experience because in October of 2020 I read 23 books. I'm really mad at my former self, but also I quite liked a lot of these books. I'm sure past me was just trying to make their life easier as they coped with the upcoming 2020 election, but it sure is making my life hard right now. Let's start off with children's literature. I read 6 books that I am classifying as children's literature. First, I read Rick by Alex Stringo. This is kind of a sequel to George, or at the very least it takes place in the same universe and school system. Rick's starting middle school and his best friend Jeff is a bully, and Rick doesn't like the way that Jeff treats other kids or the way that he treats Rick. As Rick begins to question his romantic orientation, he joins his school's Rainbow Spectrum Club, where he meets a group of kids with various genders and identities, and they meet up and talk about LGBTQ+ issues. He feels like everyone else around him has things figured out, but he is still questioning and figuring things out. And in order to figure things out, ultimately he'll have to make some new friends and maybe break off the friendship with his best friend. I think this is a really great, middle grade book, and I liked having a character who was still questioning himself and figuring things out, because I am still, at 26, figuring a lot of things out. I am giving Rick by Alex Stringo 4 stars. Next, I want to talk about the other Alex Stringo book I read in October, which was You Don't Know Everything, Jilly P. This book is totally separate from Stringo's other works. Jilly P is a fangirl who is very active in a forum where she talks with other kids about her favorite book series. She makes friends with a boy online who is proud to be black and deaf. As the story goes on, her little sister Emma is born, and Emma is also deaf, so Jilly does her best to try and be a great big sister by learning sign language, talking to her friend about how to be a good ally to the deaf community. At the same time, she is trying to learn to be a good ally to the black community through conversations with her black lesbian aunt when there is some friction within her family. This was a really good book about privilege. I think this book offers an opportunity for parents to have discussions with their children about these important issues. I'm giving You Don't Know Everything, Jilly P by Alex Stringo 4 stars. I'm going to review these next 3 books all at once, which is what I usually do for books in a series if I read them all in one month. I read the Magic Misfits, the second story, and the Minor Third by Neil Patrick Harris. I love the Magic Misfits series. I got my hands on an advanced reader copy when the first book came out, and I instantly fell in love with the story of these kid magicians who meet each other, develop a friendship, and then save their town by stopping a heist with their skills. There are 4 books in the series, 1 for each suit of cards, and 1 book for each of the 4 child magicians that make up the main cast. Next we have The Tower of Nero by Rick Riordan, which is the 5th and final book in the Trials of Apollo series. I read the first 4 books in this series several months before this one because I didn't realize that the book hadn't come out yet. This is a conclusion both to the Trials of Apollo series and the general Percy Jackson world. We're done with Greek and Roman myths now, moving on to something new, maybe something a little browner, whatever. I thought this was a really fun story about breaking toxic systems and breaking a cycle of abuse within your family by being willing to step out and stand up for yourself and do what you know is best for you and engage in more healthy behaviors through your found family. Also, there was a really cool fight and centaurs and villains and mythical creatures, and it was fun. I liked it. I'm giving The Tower of Nero by Rick Riordan 4 stars. I read 10 young adult contemporary fiction books in October. First, I read Openly Straight by Bill Konigsberg. This is about Rafi, who came out as gay in middle school and now is constantly seen as the gay kid in his hometown. Not wanting his sexuality to be seen as his whole identity, he decides to go away to an all-boys boarding school where he decides not to come out, to be assumed straight and not tell people otherwise. This gets complicated as he interacts with homophobic classmates, a teacher who challenges him to really write his story and open up, and Ben, a boy who he likes a lot and who might also like him back. This book was published in 2013, and at times I felt like it was a little out of touch. but I still genuinely liked it. I'm giving Openly Straight by Bill Konigsberg 4 stars. Next, I read the sequel, Honestly Ben by Bill Konigsberg. I was excited about Honestly Ben, about this glorious and soft, possibly bisexual boy who was still questioning his identity, his romantic orientation, and figuring out his life. This book touched on important topics like class, toxic masculinity, and family abuse. However, it handled the topic of bisexuality really poorly. Many of the characters who are presented as LGBTQ+ allies or members of the community say openly biphobic things, and it is never called into question. Even the way that Ben handles his own attraction to men, or at least to Rafi, doesn't seem to be in line with what we know about his character from the first 2 books. As someone who is studious and patient in his work, I thought Honestly Ben would be better than the first book because it was published more recently and because I can maybe see some of myself in this book as a bisexual person, but honestly, I was disappointed. I'm giving Honestly Ben by Bill Konigsberg 3 stars. While we're here, let's talk about the music of What Happened by Bill Konigsberg. This is a dual narrative between 2 gay teenagers who run a food truck together. They seem like polar opposites, but the more time they spend together, the closer they get, and as they grow closer together, they also learn about the trauma that each have experienced and help each other heal. Some content warnings for this book. One of the main characters is a rape survivor, gambling, and grief. This book honestly was fun. I think it's my favorite of the Bill Konigsberg books that I have read, of the 3 that I have read and just discussed in this video. So I'm giving the music of What Happened by Bill Konigsberg 4 stars. We Are Totally Normal by Rachael Ann. This book is told from Nandan's perspective, and Nandan belongs to the popular crowd that is at the periphery of it all. He has plans for the perfect junior year of high school though. He's convinced he has cracked the code to his high school and can have a chill junior year if he follows the plan. Not included in that plan is hooking up with his friend Dave because something that's not exactly gay panic ensues because he likes Dave and being with Dave, but everyone starts to see him differently now that he's in a same-sex relationship, and that makes him feel like he's different when he really liked who he was and the way things were. It felt like this book was playing with the idea that being queer is trendy, and while it has characters that acknowledges the privilege in such a ridiculous statement, it doesn't fully deal with the implications of perpetuating that idea. It was an okay book, but not really for me. I'm giving We Are Totally Normal by Rachael Ann 3 stars. Next, let's talk about Anna and the French Kiss trilogy by Stephanie Perkins. I have never read these books. I have been told to read these books for about a decade before I finally picked the first one up, and then immediately got the second and third one from the library because these stories are amazing. The first book in the trilogy is Anna and the French Kiss. Anna is looking forward to her senior year in Atlanta, where she can be a film buff, working at the local movie theater, hang out with her best friend, and be there for her little brother. When her absentee father decides to send her to boarding school in Paris, without asking Anna if she would like to go to a boarding school in Paris. But then she meets Etienne St. Clair, who is unbelievable. He is perfect. He is already in a relationship. But Paris is the city of love, so maybe things could just work out for the two of them. I loved the characters in this book, and as much as this is a young adult romance, it also felt like a love letter to a place. It is about falling in love with a person and falling in love with a place and building a home wherever you are. I'm giving Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins 4 stars. The second book in this series is Lola and the Boy Next Door. Lola Nolan is a budding costume designer with unbelievably fun and sparkly, colorful outfits, and it seems like everything is perfect in her life. She has a cool older boyfriend, a great job at the local movie theater with awesome coworkers who happen to study abroad in Paris, and everything is great. But then the Bell twins, Calliope and Cricket, move back to the neighborhood. Calliope is a competitive figure skater who happens to be an Olympic hopeful, and Cricket is a gifted inventor. And now that the boy next door is back in town, Lola needs to figure out her feelings for him all over again. I didn't like this book as much as the first one. It felt a little disjointed at times, but I still loved all of the characters so much. I'm giving Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins 3 stars. The third and final book in the trilogy is Isla and the Happily Ever After. Isla has had a crush on Josh, an adorable cartoonist, since their freshman year at the School of Americans in Paris. And after a chance encounter back home in Manhattan, it feels like romance is actually possible. When they go back to France for their final school year, though, they're forced to confront a lot of challenges that a lot of high schoolers face. College decisions, family drama, and the reality that they might not be together forever. This is a beautiful conclusion to the trilogy. I'm giving Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins 4 stars. Let's talk about something a little more diverse next, with Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling told to us through the eyes of Zuri Benitez, an Afro-Latinx poet with maybe a few too many sisters for her liking. She is proud of her family though, proud of her roots and proud of her neighborhood, but pride won't stop the gentrification from happening all around, and the wealthy Darcy family moves in across the street to really hammer home that point. It is a beautiful retelling. I love Pride and Prejudice, and I think this book really used the framework of the story well to discuss class, race, gentrification, and what it means to belong to a place. I'm giving Pride by Ibi Zoboi 3 stars. Next we have The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drigg. I didn't love this book. This is about Violet, who is a bit of a wreck right now, going out partying and engaging in self-destructive behaviors, and she gets sent away to a little town in Maine for the summer that her great-great-great-grandmother founded when her little brother is in treatment for depression after a suicide attempt. She's living with her uncle and trying to figure out her life. While she's in this town, she decides to fulfill her and her brother's childhood dream of finding the shipwreck that their great-great-great-grandmother survived. This book was marketed and pitched to me as a bisexual romance. And in this book, Violet does in fact engage in romantic behavior with a man and a woman. She does not at any point label herself as bisexual, and in fact, they just sort of dance around any identity questions throughout the entire book, which is a giant pet peeve of mine. I also found this book depressing, but I think this book was meant to be depressing for the most part. It's about looking for a shipwreck. Definitely not for me, but I think it was fine. I'm giving The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drake 3 stars. Finally, the last piece of young adult fiction for this video, Sam Ilsa's Last Hurrah by Rachael Ann and David Levithan. This story is another dual narrative from this dynamic duo. This is about twins who host dinner parties in their grandmother's apartment. They're hosting their last dinner party though because their grandmother is selling the place and they are expected to be going off to college. It's fun and it's fine, and yeah. It's what I expected from a David Levithan and Rachael Ann book. I'm giving Sam and Ilsa's Last Hurrah 4 stars. I read one nonfiction book, exactly one, in order to mourn Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whose memory is absolutely a blessing. Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg by Erin Carmen and Shanna Kisnick. I've read other biographies before about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but I think one that focused on her legacy, the memification of RBG, and all of her unfinished work was exactly what I needed while mourning her death. This book really made Justice Ginsburg feel real to me. It showed me her humanity in a way that's really hard to capture in a biography. I'm giving Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg by Erin Carmen and Shanna Kisnick 4 stars. I read 6 comics in October. First, I read Owly Volume 2, Just a Little Blue by Annie Runton. This is just a cute comic about an owl who builds a birdhouse. There are almost no words in this entire comic. It is a great example of sequential storytelling and would be fun to pick up if you have a kid that can't quite read in your home but still wants a full story. I'm giving Owly Just a Little Bit Blue 4 stars. Next, I read The Backstagers Volume 2, The Show Must Go On by James Tynion IV and Ryan Tsai. This is a conclusion to the supernatural story. Every single theater has magic in it. Most people experience the magic that is on stage, but the real magic is backstage, like literal, real, dangerous, supernatural magic. And the backstagers are the one who keep it all under control, or fight it off if it gets out of control. This is technically a conclusion to the series, which I still wish had run for longer. I'm giving The Backstagers Volume 2 4 stars. They also wish that it had run for longer, which is why I can also talk about Backstagers Volume 3 Encore by James Dean IV and Ryan Tsai. This is a collection of shorts about Valentine's Day and Halloween. Why just these two holidays? I have literally no idea, but I really enjoyed getting to stay in this world a little bit longer. These shorts were sweet, occasionally scary, and always fun. I'm giving The Backstagers Volume 3 4 stars. I also read Witchy by Ariel Slamet Rise. I only read the first volume of the story originally because it was available at my library, but I found out it is still being published as a webcomic, so I caught up. This is a story about a world where your powers as a witch directly correlates with how long your hair is, and nobody ever cuts their hair. If your hair is long enough, you could be drafted into the military, or executed as an enemy of the state. Instead of doing either of those things, when our protagonist's long hair is discovered, she simply runs away from all of society. And honestly, given that I read this book in the fall of 2020, I thought running away from society sounded pretty reasonable given that society is full of disease. It was a fun book, and a great read to make myself feel a controlled amount of scared for Halloween. I'm giving Witchy by Ariel Slamet Rise 4 stars. Another fun Halloween comic is Taproot by Kiza Yun. This is about a gardener who can see ghosts and then proceeds to fall in love with one of those ghosts. This story is gentle and kind in a way that most ghost stories aren't. I loved the art in this book. It really felt like every single blade of grass was drawn with love. And why wouldn't a story about a gardener have that? I'm giving Taproot by Kiza Yun 4 stars. Finally, Ghosted in LA Volume 1 by Cinna Grace, Sia Bonkinen, and Kathy Lee. So Daphne moved to Los Angeles for college to be with her boyfriend Ronnie. Ronnie breaks up with her. So now she's stuck in a strange city with no friends, no family, and no idea what to do next. She sets out to explore the city and ends up encountering a beautiful, abandoned, haunted manor. Given how difficult it is to find affordable housing in LA, she asks to move in with all of the ghosts. And that's a fun time. I'm giving Ghosted in LA Volume 1 by Cinna Grace, Sia Bonkinen, and Kathy Lee 4 stars. Those are all 23 books I read in October. This video clearly took a while to make, so thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, or just leave me a little ghost emoji to say hi. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe, watch another video of mine, or support me on Patreon. And hey, I love you!